Good evening and welcome to UPfront. Today we're doing a double track show. First, we will give you the latest happenings on the front of the recent collapse of 5 banks in the country, the eventual establishment of a new one to take over these banks. We know that the grouping that previously held majority of the shares in ADB, we are talking about Starmont Development Limited and also Belstar Limited. They've sued the Bank of Ghana over this particular decision. We'll be coming up with the latest development in that area and also the massive call on the Bank of Ghana to not only name and shame, but also prosecute directors of the failing and erring banks. We'll be hearing from the head of supervision of the Bank of Ghana really soon on these matters. Parliament will have its say, especially for the majority side. Yesterday, you heard from the minority. Later on in this show, we continue our build-up towards the premiering of Who Killed the Judges, the special assignment which is focusing on crimes that shook the nation. But our guest is an extraordinary man. He was a PNDC secretary for the Northern, later on the Upper, and settled with the Upper East. He's PNC at some point in time and became MPP finally. He's retired from active partisan politics. You sure will be interested in the guests coming up soon on UPfront. But first, let me give you the latest happenings on the front of what's supposed to be the biggest scandal of bank collapse in the Republic of Ghana. We do know that 2 good institutions, being Belstar Limited and Starmont Development, has dragged the Bank of Ghana before the Commercial Division of the High Court of the Republic of Ghana. Their claims are pretty simple. That recently, the Bank of Ghana annulled 35% of the shares, which made them leading shareholders in that particular bank, the ADB. They had along the line pledged these shares to Unibank. So you heard of the folk power, which involved Unibank allegedly taking over ADB at a point in time. This particular action is what is happening right now. The court is going to preside soon on this matter and decide whether or not these 2 groups who previously held 5% of the shares of ADB and their shares were annulled by the Bank of Ghana, whether the act was in the right direction. They are, however, seeking an interim injunction. More of that detail will be coming up pretty soon on this network. But there's also mounting pressure for the removal of virtually everybody related to these 2 institutions, the 5 institutions in this case. And not only their removal and their blacklisting, but also their prosecution. Early on, we heard the second deputy governor of the Bank of Ghana, LC Awaji, say that they will soon tender a document before the grouping that's supposed to be in charge of all of these arrangements. Well, that document has not reached the Attorney General yet, as we know and as we speak of right now. But we understand Iroko has been doing some work on the very 2 banks, Capital Bank and also UT Bank. One, for those of you that are unclear in your mind about who are the directors of this bank, let me give you a second so that I can appreciate the people and know who we are dealing with in this particular case. So, Covenant Dufour Jr., when it comes to Unibank, Covenant Dufour Jr., Eko Nyako Dazi, Dennis, also answer our LC Dansua Tre is also part of the people who are part of the members of the board of Unibank. Florence Adae Ohene, Opoku Jenfi Boaten, and also Felix Nyakupon. These are the directors of Unibank. Proud to government and the Bank of Ghana appointing a different set of people at KPMG to manage Unibank and the eventual collapse of that particular bank. Now, let me take you to the other institutions that you sure should know about now. And that is the other 4 banks that are part of those who have been terminally removed from the list of banks in the country. Beige Bank has Kofi Otutu Edulabi as a board chairman. Mike Nyaku is the CEO. Richard Edupoku is also a member of the board. Yao Fourier J is a member of the board. Wilson Kortite is a member of the board. And Dr. Elsie Efa Kaufman, of course, you know the National Science and Maths quiz, madam, is actually also quiz mistress, is also part of the board of the Beige Bank. George Appa Kwabin is also on the board of Beige Bank. Now, Royal Bank has Professor Bill Buenoki Pupulampu, Osei Asafuoje as MD, Victoria MFA Hardcastle, and the other names that you may know is Samuel K. A. Apenten, Kweku Otimpon, and also Eriam Kweku Kwame Achu. These are the people that are very prominent at the bank level of board status at the Royal Bank. For Construction Bank, Dr. Asari Akufo is their board chairman. We know that Stephen Poji, previously MD of ADB, who started the entire conversation on the IPO, who actually recently launched the Construction Bank, is the MD of Construction Bank. And on the board, Major General Kwame Opoku-Edusei is on the board of Construction Bank. Saliamoa Kwesi Amponsa-Teria, who is a lecturer, is also on that particular board. Kwesi Edumante is also the board secretary of the Construction Bank. Now, finally, for Sovereign Bank, Dr. Kwame Echampong-Che is a board chairman. You know him, right? The former chairman of Glyco Group. Johan Renda is the MD for the Sovereign Bank. Dr. Tetenate is a member. Abdullahi Abukari is a member. John Okwesi Arthur Afote Odaite Fiu is also a member. Abdul Samed Ejus is also a member, who is a former deputy MD of ADB, is also a member of the Sovereign Board. So these are the people that are likely to be targeted by the investigations of the Yoko and also the various security institutions across the country. When finally the Bank of Ghana is able to submit the documents to these institutions. Now, we will be going on the phone line and speaking to the chairman of the Finance Committee pretty soon. We'll also be speaking to the head of the Banking Supervision Division at the Bank of Ghana pretty soon on this network. But I did tell you that I have a very wonderful guest with whom I'm going to have a wonderful conversation. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you.
The Honorable John Indabugri was a member of Parliament too some time ago for Zebila, and I hope you are doing well.
I'm quite well.
You are in fairly good shape for a man of your age. What's the secret?
But you don't know my age.
Oh, I mean, your age is public information.
Yeah. Well, I eat a lot of TZ, that's all.
Oh! I didn't know that was such a powerful tool to get you long life. Anyway.
TZ is good.
Let's start off this particular conversation this way. You were a secretary for regions, not only one, during the PNDC time. I want to be clear in my mind on exactly what brought you into contact with the PNDC and got you the roles. So when did you join the PNDC?
Well, I officially joined the PNDC on the 5th of February 1982. Indeed, you know, I traveled to Nigeria as a contract teacher in 1980. And while I was there, I was given permission to come home in 1981 to pick my family.
Okay.
That time I had a wife and just 2 kids. And to take them back to Nigeria because they anticipated that I would be there for a while. So when I came in September 1981, I went to see Mr. Chris Atim, Bukari Atim, who was my 2 years junior in Navasco, in Navron School, popularly called Navasco, and then who later on interacted with me in KNUST. And then he took me to Flight Lieutenant Rawlings.
I see.
At the Independence Avenue, just opposite the Canadian High Commission. I think that bungalow has now been removed and there's some remodeling there. And so we had a chat, and they gave me the impression that things were getting out of hand. I didn't quite agree with them. It was a short meeting. Then I went back to Nigeria. This was in September 1981. And then early in the morning in December, I was not tuning to Ghana. I was almost on the BBC. And then the BBC announced this coup, which was christened a revolution. Subsequently, I was concerned because my brother-in-law was a member of parliament, Liman's member of parliament. And so I was concerned that about his safety and the safety of his wife and children, as well as my wife and my children, because normally when these things happen in Africa, the ramifications affect family members as well.
Certainly.
So I made an effort to come back to Ghana to see what was happening. And the Nigerians were not about to allow me to. And I was still in the process when an emissary came from Accra to the school where I was teaching near Calabar,
Okay.
where Charles Taylor was, put in for a while before he went. He got his problems with the ICC.
ICC, yeah.
Now, I was contacted by this emissary from the PNDC, and actually there was a demand that I should proceed to Accra. And so the school authorities had no option but to allow me to come. So I came. I arrived in Accra on the morning of the 5th of February, 1982. Went straight to Gonda Barracks. I met a panel of interviewers. And then by the evening of that day, I was announced as the PNDC Regional Secretary for the Northern Region. That's how I came into contact with the PNDC regime.
So you didn't really believe in the ideals of the PNDC?
Well, the PNDC was really partly a product of student activism. And I was the National Secretary of the National Union of Ghana Students.
I see.
Between 1975 and 1976. And I played very serious roles in that capacity. And I think that is one reason why, in addition to the fact that I had been very close with Chris Atim, that I was called to come. And so we had very pristine, altruistic, intentions for this country. And at the time the so-called revolution, with the greatest respect, broke out, there was a lot of, disarray in this country. Soldiers were being maltreated, even at Makola, where Makola market women could throw, with the greatest respect again, urine on them. And so things were really, really, really not quite as they should be. And in fact, when I said that I came in September 1981, and that my brother-in-law was a member of parliament, I confided in him that, look, if I were to advise you people in government at that time, I would ask that you declare a state of emergency in order to stabilize the situation. But Dr. Liman was not about to do that because he was a lawyer. He had legal training, he was an economist, he was a political scientist and so on. He was not about to listen to those matters. But the long and the short of it is that the situation was almost out of control. So in our altruistic view of matters, we thought that the change was welcome.
Were you PNC then?
It couldn't have been PNC.
I'm saying that, were you in the Liman government?
No.
Yes. Were you a sympathizer of that government?
No, I actually did not. I was apolitical then because the Liman government, the problem I had with the Liman government was that it was a collection of the old guards of the CPP.
I see.
Who were not too loyal to Kwame Nkrumah.
Oh, okay.
From the literature I had read.
Okay, that's interesting to know. So it was justified, the 81 coup?
It depends on what you mean by justified. In our state of mind at that time, as I have explained, it would be justified.
In hindsight?
On hindsight, it was not justified because there was an alternative route to removing an incompetent government. That is through the ballot box. And there was...
That's a 4-year project, right?
There was provision for it, yes. There was a 4-year project, but we are still in the same kind of situation.
Even when you said that they should have declared a state of emergency, was 4 years really how and how long it should take to resolve a problem?
Yes, if their disarray continued, it would have compelled Dr. Liman to possibly consider the possibility of declaring a state of emergency.
So you're taken to the northern region.
Yes, I was appointed the regional secretary for Northern Region.
How was working as regional secretary for PNDC then?
Yes, that is, I used the Northern Region as my justification for participating in the 31st December event. Because, as I said, I was appointed on the 5th of February, 1982. And then I think there was some general cleanup in Accra here. And so I went out with Mr. Chris Atim to participate in that cleanup and getting myself ready to go to Tamale. And then on the 8th of 3 days after my appointment, soldiers came looking for me where I was putting up and said that the chairman wanted me at Gonda Barracks at once.
I see.
So they took me to him, and he said that, no, Tamale was in a state of confusion. And so I should leave immediately and get there and assume duty. And so he commandeered this presidential jet. And I was the only one in it with a bodyguard and the crew. You know, and we got there. At 4 a.m. of that day, the central market at Tamale had been set ablaze.
By unknown persons.
Unknown persons at that stage. Mm-hmm. And even now, because I got there around 4 p.m. The flight touched down around 4 p.m. at Tamale. And I was taken in a Pinsgoa by soldiers, and then we got to the office of the regional minister or secretary, and I signed the book to take over. The fire was still smoldering. And so immediately I had to establish a committee of inquiry to look into that matter. I'm sorry to say that up to now, the members of the committee were so much intimidated
by
the population that they couldn't get to the bottom of the matter.
Did they meet ever?
They met. They met and presented a report, some kind of report, which I must say I wasn't satisfied with. But that is beside the point. I took over, and, you know, the first few weeks of my stewardship were difficult because I would be sleeping and the telephone would ring, and I would be told that somebody had been shot in front of the hospital.
Really?
Yes. And I would rush there, and I would pick the person into the hospital. Some of them were relatives, of persons very well known to me, whose names, no, I don't think it's appropriate to mention. So I did a lot of hard work to stabilize the situation. You see, Tamale has about more than 3 garrisons. We have the Airborne Force. We have the 5th Battalion at Kamina Barracks. We had Kaladan Barracks soldiers, and so they just went about shooting people at random, and you wouldn't even know where they were coming from. And I still had the duty to make sure that there was some security in the area. And those who worked with me will testify to the fact that we did a lot of work in order to stabilize the situation. I must commend the chairman of the Ezra chairman of the PNDC, because when the reports kept going to him about all these atrocities, yes, he organized a meeting. He called to, he sent a message that he was coming to visit Tamale, and he came. And when the aircraft landed, of course, I was there with my retinue to meet him and his entourage. Then the people started coming off the plane. He was about the last to come off the plane after Chachu Chikata.
I see. No, but I want to be clear.
Let me finish this story. Yeah. When he was coming down, he was holding a cutlass and Frantz Fanon's book, The Wretched of the Earth.
I see.
So I was amazed. I was wondering what was happening. Then we went to the hangar, you know, where they parked the aircraft and so on. and the meeting was mobile. We started the meeting.
I see.
We spoke, Alolga Katapore spoke, then the former Air Force commanders, acting Air Force commander spoke. I had given my welcome address and so on. Then Chairman Rawlings was to address us. And then he said a few things. And he said that if this revolution is about all this confusion, then let's stop it. And he used the cutlass and split the chair he was sitting on into two.
Really?
Yes. And there was absolute silence in the hangar. That is what stopped the confusion.
The chaos in Tamale.
The chaos in Tamale. Because he sympathized with the efforts I had been making. And, soldiers would even chase people into my office over bread.
Was the problem with the soldiers, or was the problem with the ordinary people then?
No. In that case, in Tamale, my experience in Tamale, the problem was with unruly soldiers who didn't understand the meaning of the event.
So they were on their own?
Yes.
Creating mayhem all over the place?
They chased people to my office over bread. They've gone to buy bread, and it was being sold to them over, or they couldn't get it, or it was being sold to them
higher than
at
the
a higher
price. Military men were virtually in charge of the states then. You were not a military man at that time.
Yes, they told me so. And I told them that, they told me in that one event where they chased a bread seller to my office. And they said that I was sitting there and, they did their coup and I've come and they've given me a position and I'm just there trying to. And I put a weapon, I put my personal pistol on the table and asked them to shoot me.
Really?
Yes, and that just as I was far away from the event in Accra, they were equally far away in Tamale.
They couldn't have contributed to it.
So, there was no ground for them to be behaving the way they did. These are
You were not their friend then?
No, I wouldn't say I was their friend. I had a lot.
Did they threaten your life?
You needed to have some guts in order to bring this kind of situation under control.
Did they threaten your life?
Yes, I have given you an example.
Yeah, but that's you asking them to shoot you anyway.
Yes.
They did not.
No. I don't think that an assassination attempt was made on me.
Were there that many atrocities in Tamale then? I have seen reports from the NRC, so many of these accounts being given. Was it that bad?
It was quite bad. Central Market was burnt, and there are current politicians who, for their own purposes, are claiming that I am the one who set that market ablaze or caused that market to be set ablaze. But the market was set ablaze at 4 a.m. on the 8th of February 1982. And I left Accra on the orders of Chairman Rawlings and got to Tamale at 4 p.m., 12 hours.
But I could not bring the matter to a conclusion. So it could be that you were complicit. That's why you could not bring the matter to a conclusion. No.
I appointed a committee of inquiry.
And
the people intimidated them so much that they would not be able to discover the persons who actually set the fire. Mind you, I said I had arrived from Nigeria on the 5th. I couldn't have been planning this thing.
But you're a politician. The understanding and appreciation of the matters on the ground would help out. Maybe that was your grandstanding event.
I don't understand what you mean by politician. I'm not that type of politician.
Okay, so if you say so, I get your point.
Yes,
but what I'm trying to say is that it makes a lot of sense for you to establish your control and power over the city. And some events may help you do so. You are insisting that you had nothing to do with it. The conspiracy theories suggest that you did.
Yes.
Okay.
And they are wrong because the timings don't add up.
Were there other, beyond the burning of that particular market, were there other major atrocities, which even involved human killings, that really got you very worried?
I told you that people were being shot at random.
Did they die?
And some died. Oh. Even mad people in the street were being shot. And I was picking them and taking them personally to the hospital.
Were these people investigated? As in the incidents, were they investigated?
Raymond, You needed to be there.
No, I want to know that the logical sequence is that if an incident happens,
because I am
there's investigation.
In the night.
Yes.
I am in bed and I'm called as regional secretary or minister. Some event has taken place there, he is Sakasaka there, and I rush there with my bodyguard, and we pick the person to the hospital.
Okay.
The people who had committed, I have told you that there were different garrisons, and the soldiers were just going about.
So the people who were shot, they never saw the people who shot them?
No.
And
most of it happened in the night.
And when the investigations were done, the military men could not get to the bottom of it, or it was not investigated at all?
Which military went?
I'm saying that
I did not establish.
Ordinarily, you should commence investigations like you did in the market to some of these deals to make sure that the people are brought to book. That's how the process should work.
It is because you are sitting in the peaceful atmosphere of the studio that you are talking like that. You needed to be there at that time.
Yes.
And I've told you that it took a person, it took a person with guts, real guts, to deal with the kind of situation we were dealing with at that time. And that is the reason why Gerald Rawlings came to Tamale and split the chair to send a message.
How long were you Northern Regional Secretary?
Yes, there was a reshuffle in November of 1982, and I was sent to the upper region then. Okay.
Was that because you were unable to manage the situation?
No. It's because Dr. Tinoga, who was the upper regional secretary, had actually said that he did not intend to stay long with the government. And that within 6 months or so, he would like to disengage and go back to his practice as a doctor.
Okay.
So it became necessary for him to move, and the government thought that I should go there and take over the situation.
Did you have a deputy?
I didn't. Where?
When you're Northern Region Secretary?
Yes, Mr. Hudu Yahya was my deputy.
Not Martin Amidu?
No. Martin Amidu, really, I appointed him as chairman of a commission, a committee of inquiry.
I see.
To investigate some disturbance that took place in the Cotton Development Board at that time.
Okay.
Now, and he did a great job.
He did a good job?
Yes.
So that's where you got to know him?
No. Martin Amidu grew up in Bawku, and so
I knew
him way back. That's one reason why I appointed him as chairman of it.
I see. Now, let me get this also clear. So your deputy was Hudu?
Yes.
And you went to the upper region. That was a more peaceful environment, wasn't it?
Relatively.
Comparatively
more peaceful.
Your biggest challenge there?
Biggest challenge there was Bawku chieftaincy problem.
I remember that time.
Yes.
I see. What did you contribute to his resolution?
In fact, I believe that's one of my landmark achievements as a member of that PNDC government, because it was a festering situation, and one could compare it to what was happening in apartheid South Africa.
Really?
Yes, and it created a lot of
Who are the whites in this case?
The Mamprusis, the Nairi and the Nairi.
Ghana here?
Yes, and he would appoint chiefs to go over to Bawku and administer Kusasis, who were in the majority.
Really?
And they did not accept it. And as I grew up, I felt it. I was victim of it, and so on. And so we used, due process to resolve the matter. And I think that the PNDC resolved that matter in a very peaceful and a very, not amicable, but very, very democratic manner.
But there's virtually always trouble in Bawku since then anyway.
Yes, because there's trouble also in South Africa now.
Yes.
So
that's still is still the underpinning.
History has scars.
But that's still the underpinning. That event is still the underpinning
of
the attempt to resolve this matter.
It has been resolved.
Yes, which still left some peeved and not excited by the resolution.
Some people will always be peeved, but with time. And in fact, I know you are coming to ask me about joining MPP.
No, later on.
That is one of the reasons why I joined the MPP.
Really?
Yes, because in Bawku area, in Kusasi area generally, you know, the parties were sharply divided among these two ethnic groups. Those who supported the CPP and Nkrumah,
I see.
those days, Kusasis. Those who supported Dankwa and his
UP.
and his ideological group, Mampusi. And so my attempt was to break this dichotomy.
Not because you
and to send a message that, you know, you don't have to belong to a political party because of your ethnic belonging or affiliation.
Or ethnic association with the political party.
Yes.
For a period of time.
Unfortunately, it doesn't seem that I succeeded.
It doesn't look like outcomes. It
doesn't
look like it worked.
It did not work. I think that all the time some people hold some of us in unnecessary great suspicion.
Really?
Yeah, that maybe I didn't mean what I was doing, but I really meant it. My aim of going into MPP. And I said it publicly.
You believed in the party.
I said it publicly here in one of your programs up there.
Okay.
Yes.
I get you. But it was not because you believed in the, what do you call it, ideologies of the MPP.
Oh, I have said this also in Parliament, and I have said it outside Parliament, that the question of ideology in Africa, and particularly in Ghana, is a misnomer.
Really?
There is nothing like that. And I said in Parliament that, in my view, in my candid view, the political class, members of the political class in Ghana, are not concerned about the color of the horse.
Really?
But the rider.
I see. So do that care
what they are interested in is to get as close to the mess pot as possible so they can share it. It is not about ideology. It is not, people need to convince me that there is some ideological divide between NDC and MPP.
Is there not?
Where is it? Because let me
yes.
demonstrate. President Kufuor came and introduced all sorts of socialist-oriented policies.
Yeah, which really the liberals sometimes consider to when they have to build safety nets anyway.
And then, does that mean that Kufuor was then socialist?
No, it means that even the center-right equally have some small elements of socialism in their systems. But it's not a predominant feature. It's not nationalization of state property. It's not, yes, so that's the difference.
So how many state properties have been nationalized by the NDC?
Not as many as was.
In fact,
during Nkrumah's time.
What NDC did
was to,
in the latter days was rather to sell out state properties to individuals.
Yeah, that's true.
And NDC is claiming to be a
social democracy.
No, they are supposed to have inherited their heritage from the PNDC.
Yes.
Yeah, the divestiture of state properties took place largely during the PNDC
period.
So where is the ideology?
That's the concern that many say. They say that it's also because there's no straight application of these ideologies. That's why we are where we are. There's a lot of hypocrisy in the system.
Look, let me tell you, in the United States of America, there's a clear line of division between the Democrats and the Republicans.
Yeah.
Democrats believe in abortion, for example. They call it choice, life choice or something. And then the Republicans largely are against that.
Yeah.
So they vote along those lines. And they keep track of how senators and members of the House of Representatives vote on these topical matters. In here, what do you see in our parliament? It is not about ideology.
They don't do ideological debate.
There's no ideological debate. It is my candid view. I know people can jump at me. I don't have a problem. There is nothing like ideology. You see, in Africa, I have come to the conclusion that it is better to be pragmatic and solve day-to-day problems of the downtrodden. That will mark you out as what socialists, than to go about chasing, theoretical matters that will bind you to inactivity.
I see. Now, let me come back to, so you were a very active PNDC secretary.
Yes.
At what point in time were you booted out or decided to leave?
I was not booted out.
Yes, so you decided to leave.
I was not booted out. I decided to leave.
What factors necessitated that?
I have adverted my mind to this Bawku issue.
Yeah.
Then when I was coming back from Nigeria, I left a few of my belongings there. And in fact, the time is short. So again, on my way here, the Nigerian security at that time, Shagari was then the president of Nigeria. They had taken notice of me. In fact, in that morning, I had got an article published in Calabar. There was a newspaper there. And I think they got to know that I was the author. And when I got to the airport at Murtala Airport in Lagos, they trailed me and cut my bag. They used sharp instrument to cut one of my bags and remove some documents. So when I came, I met some Nigerians who advised that I should not go back there. Otherwise, my life would be in danger. So I avoided until about 1985. I decided to go back and pick up my belongings. When I left, before I left, I went to see the chairman. We had a very good chat. As soon as I left, he dictated a letter removing me or suspending me as PNDC secretary. And while I was in Nigeria there, I didn't have any idea that that thing had happened until I returned. And when I returned, it became a problem. And his reason was that I was interfering with this Bawku issue. So that was, I would say that was the last straw that broke the camel's back. But previously to that, there had been a lot of disagreements. You know that the PNDC was very much sharply divided.
Yeah, on what exactly the agenda was.
That again, this question of ideology.
Yes.
That time, ideology was more prominent than now.
Because
the question was whether
Nanikofi and Co on one side.
The question was whether to go to the west and seek assistance or to the east and seek assistance. And to be fair to Jerry Rawlings, he said, go to the east and see whether we can get. Then we went there and we couldn't get much assistance. And therefore, he was convinced that we should go to the west. But there was a group in the government that believed that self-reliance was the way out. And I belonged to that group. So there were problems, and there were problems. And you know, I don't know whether you know the structure, what the structure of the PNDC was.
Yes, it was.
At the beginning.
Yeah.
It was made up of 7 people.
Yes.
The Rawlings chairman, Brigadier Nunu Mensah,
Amatekwe,
WO1 Ajebodi, Amatekwe, Chris Bukari Atim, Reverend Damua, and
Captain Chikata was an advisor
who?
then.
No,
Captain Chikata was an advisor.
I'm looking.
How about Katapori?
Even I have brought the proclamation setting up the PNDC here.
I see.
So that we can explain. In fact, it has the schedule. It is better to look at the schedule. Flight Lieutenant Jerry Rawlings, Chairman. Brigadier Joseph Nunu Mensah, Chief of Defense Staff, member. Reverend Dr. Kwabena Damua, member. Warrant Officer Class 1, Joseph Ajebodi, Coordinator Armed Forces Defense Committees member. Sergeant Daniel Alolga Katapori, Secretary, Armed Forces Defense Committees member. Joachim Amate Kwe, member. 7, Chris Bukare Atim, member. Now, the proclamation set out the manner in which other members would be co-opted by the council, not by one person.
I see. Not by the chairman?
No, couldn't be by the chairman. The chairman only had a casting vote. but by the beginning of 1983, you know, this list I have counted had dwindled to 2. We were left with only Flight Lieutenant Rawlings and Warrant Officer Class 1 Ajay Bodi. The 5 had gone out. And they were replaced by who? They were replaced by one man. And therefore, the ideological...
Who is this one man?
Jeff Rawlings, of course.
Oh, okay.
Yes. He was now appointed, he appointed the rest. He appointed the rest. And so the differences became very accentuated.
I see.
And because of these differences, people like Chris Atim and Akatapore and others had to flee from this country. And I just remained for tactical reasons. And therefore, when that thing finally happened, and I saw that in any case, the reason why we had come into the process was no more tenable.
When you say that thing, what do you mean?
Pardon me?
When you say that thing finally happened?
What I told you, that I traveled to Nigeria,
yes.
and then I spoke with him,
and
when I left, he stabbed me in the back by removing me, by suspending me. And I was in Nigeria in a dangerous place like that.
And you were on suspension?
And I didn't know that I had been suspended.
But you're diametrically opposed to him.
Pardon me?
You are diametrically opposed to him when the ideology issue became entrenched.
Yeah, I didn't agree with him ever.
But how then were you expecting him to work with you then?
Oh, but he himself has a very interesting saying that we don't need to be friends to work.
I see.
Which I agree with.
Okay. It's interesting to know
you
that.
You don't need to be friends to work together.
To work.
Yeah, but I worked very closely with him. Very, very closely with him. But I won't say that we were friends.
When did you hear of the killing of the judges in 1982?
When I was at Tamale. That a day after the matter had come to the open.
Did it shock you?
Shocked me.
The understanding was that those of you in the PNDC described them as enemies of the revolution.
No, I was not one of the people who described them as enemies of the revolution. Even though in our pristine, altruistic way of looking at things at that time, we actually grouped Ghanaians into them and us.
Okay.
And I now think that it was wrong to do that.
I see.
But when you are a young man, your views are totally different. We were very anxious to reorganize this country. And in the process of trying to reorganize the country, we probably did not diagnose the ills properly.
Of the state properly?
Yes. And so let me come back to the question. I don't want it to look as if I am dodging the question, whether I was shocked.
Yeah.
You know, it depends on the way the news came. The news came that some judges and Major Aqua.
Yeah.
Major Aqua, I would not have hurt him because Major Aqua was a personal benefactor of mine.
I see.
And that, in fact, his death really worried me more than the others. I must be frank, because I didn't know them.
Okay.
But Major Aqua was in charge of Gihok, and I did national service with Gihok Paint at Tema. I didn't have accommodation. Major Aqua gave me nice accommodation close to Nkrumah's, Dr. Nkrumah's wife's premises at Labone there. And yes, and I was living close to Madam Elizabeth Ohini. And so, yes. So, and he had a very close personal relationship with me. He simply just liked me as a young person. And so I was, his inclusion really made me not understand the whole thing. And of course, one had to understand because there was a fracas between Parliament and Amatekwe and his trade union organization when they went and drank tea in Parliament House. And
they went to eat the food of the people.
Yeah, and then they had to take action against them. And I think that because he was director of personnel, it was taken that
he's the one.
But he was a fantastic gentleman.
Some said that the PNDC was behind the killing of these judges. True?
Somebody was executed for that, and he was a member of the PNDC. So that question is now redundant.
No, I mean, the question is important because the presumption is that not all of the PNDC people who masterminded and put themselves involved in this particular act were dealt with the way they ought to be dealt with.
Yes, those who are saying so need to go and read the SIB report, the special investigation report.
The SIB indicted more than the number that was put before court.
Yes, so the report is still available.
Yes,
so people,
I know. I've read the report.
People should act on it.
Those
who think that those who
but if SIB indicts 10 people, then only 5 is put before court.
Yes. So
it stands to reason that there's a number that's still out there.
Yes, even now there are investigations, and then the president says these people have. The report says they were not liable for any wrongdoing. He says, let go. When somebody else gets the power and he thinks that they did a wrong thing, they will deal with them. So those who think that the SIB report was not implemented to the full, and they have the power to do it now, they should do so. I made a statement in Parliament on this matter.
Okay.
And I said that I have read a lot, and I have not come across a situation where a government has met to conspire to commit a crime.
Not at all.
Huh?
Not at all.
Yes. have not. Governments don't meet to commit a crime.
Yeah.
Individuals within governments
yes,
go out of their way to commit crimes. And crime has no limitation period. So if the SIB report is there, it is still authentic, and people think that there are some people who ought to have been roped in who were left off the hook, and they have the ability now. In fact, we are now in a very liberal regime. You can file some papers tomorrow at Shraj or some place, or with Martin Amidou. And then you can take the SIB report and look at it again.
The Gerons represent the ideals of the, what they call it, the PNDC.
Why do you ask this question? I've told you that there was a collective presidency of 7.
Of 7.
So why he? Why don't you ask whether
because you're the chairman of the PNDC.
No. Why don't you ask whether Reverend Damwa?
Because all those people were not as prominent as the chairman of the PNDC.
Yeah, to be prominent doesn't mean that you are the spirit of the thing.
Can you answer the question?
Do
you have an answer to the question
that
whether or not Gerolins represented the ideals of the revolution and the PNDC in this case?
You are asking 2 questions rolled into one.
No.
Are you talking about revolution or about PNDC?
Sorry, the
government?
PNDC. The PNDC government was deemed the revolution.
No, I've told you that at the beginning I said revolution quotation marks.
Yes, but that's how you perceive it. It's
yes,
established.
but you are asking
even
me.
The man who is deeming it as revolution,
You are, Raymond,
okay,
you are asking me.
Let me be. I'm asking, did Gerolins represent the ideals of the PNDC? Probity, accountability, and all of those.
For which period?
From the time he was in charge of the PNDC.
For part of the period, yes.
He was?
For part of the period.
At what time did he lose that particular position? When he sacked you?
No, he didn't sack me.
But if I've been suspended rarely.
And he reinstated me. I must put that on record. And then I wrote and resigned.
That you are no longer going to do the job?
Yes, and I went to study law at the law faculty.
Okay, but I get your point. My question in this case is simple. Do you think that he did throughout? He said partly. Which part did he desist from following the ethics of the PNDC, as in the ideals of the PNDC?
Yeah, when he decided that we must, adopt structural adjustments.
Oh, okay. The economic recovery programs.
I was Secretary for Agriculture. That was during my time that IMF and the World Bank insisted that we should remove subsidies from fertilizer. And I said, I, as a peasant's son, in charge of agriculture, it will be out of place for me to sign and approve that, you know, subsidies should be withdrawn from fertilizer. And I had quite a number of problems with that. In fact, that led, one of the reasons why I was taken away from my agri
and sent somewhere else.
And sent to what they used to call Siberia, in the castle there.
That's where you were taken.
Yes, I was taken to the castle.
Did you regret the things you did under the PNDC?
No.
You don't regret nothing?
I hardly regret.
No remorse?
Because I've told you some of the things I did internally.
I get your point.
And
but you can't
I told you what I did in Bawku.
Can you recall a single decision that you took that was very bad?
That was very bad.
Yes.
I'm not used to taking bad decisions.
But was there any? You can't be perfect.
No, I'm not perfect.
Yes.
I'm not perfect at all. For example, I'm tall and you are short.
But no, I'm not short, clearly. I mean...
No, you are shorter than me. Yeah, whether...
That one I agree.
Whether height, tall and short are perfect or imperfect, there's nothing like that.
So
So, I mean...
Are you still a member of the MPP?
I am told that you need to be renewing your membership.
Yes.
I don't remember the last time I renewed.
You don't pay dues?
I don't remember the last time I paid dues.
You don't remember?
In any case, I'm no more interested in political parties.
When did this decision come in?
I think that that was after the 2012 elections. I think.
How is the president running the country? Is it going well?
I wouldn't say so.
It's not going well?
I wouldn't say
What's the problem?
Life is hard.
Really?
Yes.
For even you, the prominent lawyer with all of your just the big car and the suit, fanciful suit, it's still hard. You're not speaking for yourself.
Thank you very much for.
Are you speaking for yourself or you're speaking for everybody?
No, I'm a lawyer.
Yes.
I have clients.
You have family.
They can't pay.
They can't pay. They
cannot pay because of the situation, the economic situation.
But GDP is improving. Which criteria are you using to determine
this? That's an interesting thing you have raised. GDP.
Yes.
You know that all these kiosks that people put haphazardly are also included in the GDP.
Yes.
So GDP, confusion is added in the GDP. So
what should the government do differently?
GDP is the most unreliable index.
What should the government do differently?
Pardon me?
What should the government do differently?
The government should do what the MPP said they would do, that the previous government was not doing.
But
we are not seeing that.
Fighting corruption.
Pardon me?
This government is fighting corruption.
I don't know about that.
Really? But your good friend Martin Amidou is in charge of the special prosecutor.
Oh, if you appoint a special prosecutor, it doesn't mean you are fighting corruption.
What else do you want to see?
Since his appointment, how many cases has he dealt with?
He's preparing, but
while he's preparing to to set up, some corruption cases are going elsewhere.
Alleged corruption cases. Alleged.
Cocoa board, this, that. Are they not supposed to be corruption cases?
Alleged.
Oh, well.
Okay, but the question I'm asking you right now is, yes, you were chasing an ass. Have you stopped? You were trying to unmask him. Did you stop? Did you abandon that case?
No, I haven't abandoned. I think he should be unmasked.
Really?
Yes. Because, listen.
Even now?
Listen, this interview I'm doing with you is also quite dangerous. I've said things here which are quite dangerous, for which reason somebody may shoot me outside. I'm never ever going to wear a mask.
But that's you're not an investigative journalist who is doing undercover job.
If I have a conviction, I will go for it. Jesus didn't wear a mask.
The attempt to dissolve the GFA.
Jesus did not wear a mask. Just finish a mask.
Yes. But
so right now, I'm still in court on behalf of one of the dismissed magistrates against the Chief Justice.
Oh, I see. That's interesting.
So we are pursuing, and incidentally, some people who were not, either they were not interested or they were disinterested, are now waking up to the methods that Anas is using.
Finally, the removal of Charlotte Osei and the replacement with Jem Mensah wasn't according to law?
It was according to law, but whether it was desirable is another matter.
Was it desirable?
It wasn't desirable.
Why?
Because it sets a bad precedent. That, you see, we started with what we call the Interim National Electoral Commission, INEC. It was headed by Justice Ofori Boating, late, may he rest in peace. And then it became the Electoral Commission. Afarijan was there for long.
Yes.
We had a lot of personal problems with Afarijan.
Yes.
We had a lot of problems with him, but he continued. And when one political party in power has removed the Electoral Commissioner or the Electoral Commissioners,
yeah,
it sets the tone for succeeding governments to try and do the same thing. That's the point.
Forgive me, I need to go. Forgive me.
I just want to say one last thing. I should have said it at the beginning. I have to pay tribute to 4 people at once.
My time is up.
Quickly.
Yes, please.
Quickly. His Excellency Emisata. I wasn't able to attend his funeral. May he rest in peace. Professor Atukwe Okai.
Yes.
He was the first regional secretary under PNDC, my pal. May he rest in peace. Just yesterday,
yes,
my very good friend, Zachary, in Tamale, the owner of a prominent hotel in Tamale, he just suddenly passed.
Forgive me, I need to get off. Thank you so much for joining us on UpFront today. My guest is John Indabugri.